also, at that point, we were in the singles, but really shortly after that, because we had already started, so we had another one 22 months later. So
that was planned.
That was a little more planned because once we had started, we didn't want the big gap and all of that. Then shortly after that, both of us had been in campus ministry before we were married, and we did the singles for a big chunk of time. And but then after our 2 kids, we went and were a part of leading a small church, and we went back to leading a church and campus with 2 small kids. And so
Arlie was converted.
I don't know if that's why a little small reason, along with the weaknesses, some of the weaknesses we'll share about that will hopefully help you, is why God has us sharing this class with all of you. So now our daughter is 17. She's getting ready to be a senior, and she's a disciple. She got baptized November of last year. And then our son is 15. He's getting ready to be a 10th grader, and he's not a disciple yet. He's still trying to find God. And the other day we were having a conversation in the car before we came here, and we were talking to him about some deep stuff, and I said, Soren, when you start loving God, and I was meaning like more. And he's like, Mom, I do love God. So he does love God. He's trying to find God. But that's where we are now. We have that's our family. And so we'll...
Yeah. And Soren says, don't worry, Dad. I'm going to become a Christian. Don't worry. So and I'm not really worried. But it is what he says, And so, but there has been times when I have desperately worried. And so, but I don't feel worried today. So... But I did want to just kind of move on. Ephesians 6, verse 4, I think this is... How many of you guys have taken the GEP, Good Enough Parenting Training? Okay, so some of this is going to be that, because I will tell you that if God would allow this opportunity, if you can take the Good Enough Parenting Training, it is probably the best training that I have ever heard in the kingdom about parenting. Mm-hmm. And, we're not going to necessarily do age-specific parenting training here. So you may have some of those questions. Those may have to get answered offline. But I definitely want to encourage you that these principles are very, very valuable. Ephesians 6, verse 4, the Bible says, Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. And, this passage has been really good for me, because one of the things that I see, and, as a campus minister, as a church leader now, or region leader, I've always been very big about training, right? Always very big about training up the next generation, training up the next leaders, investing and believing in people. And so I consider myself a good trainer. And what I realized is that as a parent, I wasn't that good of a trainer. I realized that a lot of times I would just get angry, or I'd just go, just do it. Just go do this. And not be really training my kid. And not even necessarily be angry, but just not take the time to explain or train. And I think the Bible says very, very clearly, that fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. And I think sometimes we can exasperate our kids, completely exasperate our kids without even realizing it, without even knowing that you're doing it. And I really believe the opposite of exasperating is training, taking the time to train. John Louis outlines 8 exasperation interactions that I'm not going to get into the details, but I'll just tell you what they are: belittling, perfectionist, or conditional love, kind of the same thing, controlling, punitive, which is disciplining them for everything, emotionally depriving, being overprotective. I don't want you to go play sports, I don't want you to get hurt, that kind of thing. Pessimistic, and overly permissive. These are just eight of the things that he outlines. And again, I'm not going to get into it, but as a child, having these things, having a parent treat you in this way can exasperate the child. And you may be doing that and not even realize you're doing it. And so you got to really take the class to learn more, but it's very, very valuable. We want to learn how we can be parents that point our kids to God through godly training and instruction and not exasperate them. Without intervention from God, without intervention from other people in our life, godly people will actually be drawn to the familiar instead of what's healthy. Mm-hmm. When I say drawn to the familiar, I grew up and my dad was just like, man, you get out of line and you're going to get slapped across the face,
Midwest.
Or it's Midwest training right there. You just, man, and the spanking where could be pretty brutal. And it was just, a lot of the discipline was out of anger. My dad would always come back and apologize afterwards. But by that time, the damage is done. Right. And so that was what was familiar to me. That's what I experienced growing up. That's what I understood. And I think that, without proper biblical training, without people in your life, you will always be drawn to what's familiar instead of what's healthy. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we got to be willing to be trained so we can learn what is healthy and so that we can train our kids properly. Growing up, there was a lot of dysfunction. One of the things that John Louis always says is dysfunction is the gift that keeps on giving. Okay? Dysfunction is the gift that keeps on giving. Most of us probably grew up on some level in some dysfunction. Most of us just didn't grow up in this perfect family. Most of us didn't. But the truth is you got to figure out what your dysfunctions are. You got to figure out what it is in you so that you won't pass on those things that could hurt people the way that I was passing on some things that I had been trained that was familiar to me growing up. And so these are some of the challenges that I took into the parenting. My wife's going to share some things that she took into parenting.
Yes, it was really great to have these things specifically pointed out so we can see what we were doing in our family. It talked about belittling, perfectionist, controlling, punitive, emotionally depriving, overprotect, permissive, or overly permissive. And basically, all of those are the wrong way to be. Any one of those. So earlier in the list, you can say, well, I'm not punitive. But then that probably means that you might be you may fall permissive. Into the overly permissive category, which really hurts the child too. And I think the thing that I brought into with the kids that I noticed and the mistakes and the dysfunction, I grew up with a single mom, and because of some problems that my mother had, I had a lot of responsibility at a young age. And so from that, as a parent and as an adult and in my marriage and with the kids, I feel like the dysfunction that I brought was that I was very controlling and a perfectionist. Like it had to be my way, and a few of those other ones fell from that, because when you're controlling and also a perfectionist, when someone doesn't do it your way, you can be punitive. You know what I mean? So I was all of those things with the kids, and that dysfunction, which we'll talk about more, really did hurt them. And, I try not to say this, but later, as the kids get older, because we had a chance, we felt like we learned some of these lessons a little bit later in the game. And so we're just hoping that what we share, and as we share from weakness and our dysfunctions, that we could really help you guys to be awesome parents, especially those of you who have little ones, babies, and toddlers. You can change it now, and then it's not too late for those of us who have the preteens and that on up, that you can really figure out what the dysfunctions are, because most of us do bring some of those to the table, but those were the ones that I brought.
So I think some other things just that I experienced is when I was 3, my mom left. My mom left my dad with a 3, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. Wow. And my dad was a workaholic, so he was working like crazy, just working all the time. His best friend got hurt. His best friend needed a place to stay. My mom was a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids, so his best friend came and stayed at our house while my dad worked 60, 70 hours a week. So you can imagine, while he's away, and my mom is sitting at home with 3 kids and getting attention from this other man, eventually my dad realized something's not right. He told the guy, you got to go. And my mom said, if he goes, I go. And they left. And so I had a lot of dysfunction as far as things like not trusting women and I'm saying a lot of insecurities, not feeling really loved by a mother growing up. I think there's a lot of different things that just, it created a lot of different things. And then plus my dad was very tough. My dad would work all these hours. I don't remember missing any school except when I got a pneumonia. My dad would just get up, go, and our kids have missed maybe no school either. You know what I'm saying? Because we're hey, get up, go. And sometimes we're not sensitive. And we've had the good fortune of being with Larry and Mary Lou Craig in New York. And I'm telling you, wow, we'll get to more of that later. But it has opened our eyes. It has completely opened our eyes, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But the thing is we all need help. Okay? None of us have got this. And the moment you think you do, you're probably in trouble, because I will tell you, there was a time when I used to say, I'm probably the best dad there is. I'm just being real. I used to think I'm such a good dad. I'm just a good dad. And I used to feel that, and I never would say it because you can't say that kind of stuff. But I thought it. And so God knew. God judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart, right? Right. So, you can imagine God said, well, I'll take care of that. You won't think that for very long. But I do think that whatever dysfunction you bring into your parenting, there's a few things we need to understand. Number one, you have to connect with God. Okay? If you're going to be a good parent, if you're going to be, John Louis calls his class good enough parenting, I think he should call it mighty fine parenting. Because that's what he says the entire class, mighty fine, mighty fine. So I think he should have called his book Mighty Fine Parenting. But anyways, 2 Peter 1 verse 3, this verse really helps me. And it really helps to illustrate the point that, number one, if you're going to be a great parent, you have to connect with your God. It says his divine power has given us everything we need to live a godly life. Let me say that again. His divine power has given us everything we need to live a godly life. We can participate in his divine power to become godly parents. Whatever dysfunction you came from, you can participate in the divine power of God to overcome those weaknesses, to address those things in your heart and in your character, to address those things in your life, because God wants us to be great parents. Mm-hmm. He wants us to be great parents. But, your kids, I will say this. This is what I have found. My daughter, just became a disciple, as Shonda said, back in November. And we sat in our parenting talk, before, I don't know what you guys do in your churches, but before any teen can get baptized, the whole family has to sit down. And so we're having our family talk, and my daughter basically said that we were amazing parents. Now, I just sat there basically and cried, because I'm a derelict. I'm one, how do you see things that way compared to how I see it? And I think as parents, we can be super, super hard on ourselves. Super hard on ourselves. And so we need people in our life to help balance that out. Yeah. Make sense? Amen. And so it's been really encouraging. Our kids have shown us a lot of grace, and the scripture is true. Love covers over a multitude of sins. Love covers over a multitude of sins. And I think, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was going to share about in connecting with God and the power of God to be a good parent. When I came to a juncture where I felt like I kept blowing it, and I was blowing it all along, but when the kids are little, until I would say, in our experience, I would say probably to about fourth grade-ish, or fourth, fifth grade, even though we were blowing it all along, it began to show up at that time. Because at that time, they get their own minds, their own heart. They kind of can challenge the system in your home, their own personalities, because they're getting ready to hit that preteen age. And so that's when it would begin to show up, is when they challenge me with their disposition, or not even always verbal, but just in who they were. And I feel like then, but I kept going in the direction that I thought with my dysfunction, using the Bible and everything, but still not being the parent that I felt like I feel like the Spirit of God was calling me to be, being the mom, focusing on the things that God wanted me to focus on. But when I saw, and really when they hit probably junior high, I started to feel like I cannot change this on my own. I can't change it just from a book. I can't change it just from reading the Bible over and over. I can't change it from just talking to the spiritual people in church, because we had all of that. We had the best spiritual people in our church. The top leader in our church discipling us, and then, tons of other spiritual people in the church helping us, and elders' wives and people. But I still would do great for 2 weeks, and then I would still blow it with something with my mouth, or some comment that was inappropriate, or when I felt challenged by them, and my controlling nature would come out, and I would say something that would be unspiritual and not even belittling at times. And then I would go back, hey, this is what happened. I'm thinking, why am I not changing this? And it's exactly what Steve was saying here, is that it is the divine power of God that will help you and change you and help you to be the kind of parent that you want and need to be.
So I think I want to give you guys some hope. All things are possible with God.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. All things are possible with God. And if you have a firm faith and conviction about who God is, it can help your faith when you go through some dark times. Because I can tell you, we have cried many, many tears. Talking earlier with Chris Clausen, and he was just sharing a talk that we had. And this was a while back, and just struggling over, man, as a parent, I feel like I'm failing. And I think the amazing thing is that God has a plan. God has divine power, and it's available to every one of us so that we can be the godly parents that He wants us to be. Amen?
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And number 2, you got to connect with your spouse. I think this is super huge. I think, I'm going to speak more to the men here, and I'll let Shonda share something for the women. But I think, Proverbs 30:21 through 23, this is, to me, one of the scariest scriptures in the Bible. It says, under 3 things the earth trembles, under 4 it cannot bear up. A servant who becomes king, a godless fool who gets plenty to eat, a contemptible woman who gets married, and a servant who displaces her mistress. Hold on a second. 31:23. Well,
It says it differently in this version.
what does your version say? Read it.
I know the old one says a unloved woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
A married woman who is unloved.
Yeah.
And I go, dang. I have got to love my wife. What do our kids need to see? I mean, John Louis said, hey, the best gift you can give your kid is a great marriage. Mm-hmm. You can do all these other things for your kids. You can go out of your way to do this and that and all these different things because you think, I want the best kids. I want to do this. I want to invest in all that. He says, look, no, the best thing you can do, by far above anything else, is to have a great marriage. For the husband to love his wife. 1 Peter 3:7 basically just says, hey, your prayers are going to be hindered as a man if you're not being considerate of your spouse. Ephesians 5:25 says, husbands, love your wives. You've got to do that. Hopefully you guys have a planning time every week. One of the things that Larry has instructed us, every planning time, when you plan, you sit down and you ask your wife, do you feel loved? Wow. Do you feel loved? Now, sometimes that answer is yes. Sometimes that answer is, I think we need to discuss this more. You know what I'm saying? And I've heard both. And so I want to encourage you, husbands, you got to love your wives. Your kids need to see, my parents are in love. My parents love each other. They care about each other. And, for me and for Shonda, what we've decided is, we will have dates every week.
Amen.
And we have done that now for nearly 18 years. Mm-hmm. 18 years of marriage, we don't miss dates. every Saturday, or if it can't work on Saturday, on a different time, we get our dates. We don't let our kids control whether or not we get our time. Oh, I can't find a babysitter. Well, now we're in the campus ministry. If you can't find a babysitter, then you're probably, that's you got other issues, So, but you find someone to watch your kids, even if it's an hour or 2 hours, just to get away and have some dinner and just be alone. You've got to make that a priority. That is incredibly huge. We make sure that every single anniversary is special. We make sure that we save our money and we budget and make sure we go to a special place, because we know that our marriage is crucial. And we also understand that as the marriage goes, so goes the ministry. As your marriage goes, so goes your kids. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm not going to get too much into the marriage because that class is right over there. But I'm going to let my wife share a minute about some things.
Okay, so it's really true. It says one of the things, speak respectfully to one another. And, I really battle with that. Speaking respectful. The Bible talks a lot about the husbands taking care and loving us, sisters. But it also speaks about us respecting our husbands and really loving them and being in our role. And it will come back to bite you. I'm thankful that we're getting to speak because we've gotten to, we have, our kids are not as old as some people. We have teenagers, so we've gotten to almost do the little case study. And my mouth has transferred, unfortunately, to my daughter's mouth. And the things that I've said, or little rolls in my eyes, little things and pooching my lips out when I don't agree with something.
The pooching lips.
Doing the little subtle, doing those things. Now, unfortunately, my daughter has to get discipled on those same things and the decisions that we make, even as a couple, or just me, or just Steve. And it's so crazy because Steve lovingly used to challenge me on that. He would say, hey, I know you may not agree, or I know that really bothers you, or I know, he says, but, that little girl in there is going to not be able to be the kind of wife she wants to be. And, and I also don't want her to be disrespecting me when she's older. And just so you guys know, you're not getting the awesome, perfect elders version teaching of parenting. We're guys giving you the raw, and hopefully it'll help you, because we made a lot of mistakes. And so, and she doesn't want to be that way, but she'll catch her mouth, saying something sharp to Daddy. And she doesn't even like being that way. And she's not far gone. She's going to be okay. She's going to be a good wife to somebody. She's going to change it and all of that.
She's going to be in someone's campus ministry next year.
Yeah, they'll help her change it. But I unfortunately passed that weakness on to her, and I truly believe that if I would have been better and sharper and more humble in that area, that wouldn't be one of the problems that she has to battle with and get correction on and discipline on now. And so I really encourage us wives to really take that to heart with our spouses, is to be respectful of them and to really love them and to do whatever we have to do. Some practicals that Mary Lou has given me. She's such an awesome mom. She's raised 3 kids. I don't know if you guys know, that's Brian Craig's parents, our kingdom. Okay. She's just such a beautiful heart and just, nearly, she would hate me saying this, but nearly perfect wife. And so she just talks about things go to your room and pray. Even if you can't make it up to the room because you're so bothered, step into the bathroom and take a minute to pray. Don't react. Just make a decision. Don't say anything until you have time to maybe talk to somebody. Sit down, read some scriptures. She talked to me about having scriptures on hand, and so I have a little pad
on hand
that I have scriptures on to really rely on the scriptures. My first one is color coded in different colors, and this section, the green.
This is her iPad.
The green one, as you can see, says humility, and then all the scriptures after this is on humility. The next section is love and the love scriptures for Steve, the kids, and others. in scripture that talk about increasing my love, because with having teenagers, sometimes they can really push your love where you feel tempted to feel like, gosh, it's so hard for me to love right now. And just scriptures on that I seriously
Doug helped us through the first year.
That I will go away and just secretly read and go over in those moments at that time in order to help me to respect my husband and to continue to love my kids.
Amen. Yeah, I think it's so important. And I think, like Shauna said, you are getting the boasting in your weaknesses version of parenting training. So you're not, we don't have all the answers. We've made mistakes in everything. But, you've got to have people in your life who can help you with these things. But your spouse and your marriage has got to be super, super important and a major priority for you. And I will tell you that a poor marriage causes emotional insecurities in your kids, and it causes psychological and emotional damage. And you got to take it seriously. You got to take it seriously. Most of you guys have young kids. If you can make these changes now, it will save you so much heartache later. Amen?
Amen.
Number 3. So we've talked about connecting with your God, connecting with your spouse, and we got to connect with our children. Malachi 4:6, it talks about the fathers having the heart for their children, right? And I think it's so important that you connect with your child, that you have I don't know what people have different names that they call it. I've always called it special time. And so we've always had a one-on-one special time with every one of our kids, or our only 2 kids, every one of them. I grew up with 6. I'm the youngest of 6. I can't imagine having special times with 6 kids one-on-one every week. But with 2 kids, I've always made time, and this has been a priority in our family to have these special times where I go spend time with my son or spend time with my daughter separately alone, do things that they like to do, and just get a chance to connect with them, because this connection is so huge. And the connection you have at that age is so critical and so important. And you've got to be involved in their life and involved in their sports. I've coached their teams. I've helped them with schoolwork. I've probably spent 1,000 hours, and I don't think this is exaggerating, playing catch with my son, playing football. And I don't even know how many hours playing basketball. Hours and hours and hours. And that stuff is important. You need that time to connect. And so we've got to make sure that, with my daughter, she likes to go eat. So pretty much anything with food, what I'm saying? Any kind of special time with food, she's going to be fired up. So you got to find out what fires up your kids. Yes. And you got to get that special time with them. But you got to connect with your child. When you connect with your child, their confidence grows. When you're disconnected with them, they begin to not grow emotionally. So you've got to make sure you're connecting with them. And I think, what we did, and I'll tell you what we did. When we led the church in Lawrence, Kansas, where you guys are now, I just got back into the ministry, and I'd gotten out of the ministry, and I'd been out for 6 years. I got back in, went to Lawrence, Kansas, and I thought, it's time to show the world that I still have what it takes. You know what I'm saying? And I could do this ministry. So I would crank. And then Greg Moretsky would just pull me aside, and we'd have these meetings for all the evangelists get together. And it felt like he put me on probation twice, for not making my family a priority, for not making our times a priority. And so, I had to change my schedule radically. And what I did, I'd go on campus during the day. I'd come home every day for dinner, and I would pull non-Christians into my home. And so, I kept thinking, this isn't really going to work. I got to be on campus all the time. I got to be doing this all the time. And he's like, no, do it this way. And so that semester, we just had our everyday family dinners, which I think is critical. I think it's so important. You have family dinner every single day, and at least throughout the week, Monday through Friday. I know sometimes Saturday, the date night, whatever. But I do think that it's critical that you get this time together with your family. We'd have our family devotionals every Monday. We'd invite different people in the church to come to our family devotionals. It honestly gave us a little bit of accountability to make sure we had our family devotionals, and it was really good. But it was so important to have those family times, those encouraging times. But one of the things is, because I want to finish the story, when Greg challenged me to do that, I said, okay, I'm going to do it. That semester, the first semester I did it, we converted 10 awesome people. Arlie's one of them, and now Arlie leads the church in Tulsa. Arlie is a result, of us taking our family seriously and making that the priority. And as your marriage and family goes, so goes the ministry. We had 10 amazing conversions. I mean, like it was like, these are amazing caliber people. And we were just like, wow, I was working so hard, but not smart. And I was putting the ministry before my family. And I'm telling you, you cannot make that mistake. It will hurt you. It will hurt your kids. It will hurt your marriage. And you may end up even ultimately getting out of the ministry. By the way, a few years ago, I told Greg Moretzky, hey, Greg, you never took me off probation. And so he said, okay, you're off probation now. So I'm off probation. My family has improved. It's very, very encouraging. No longer on probation. That's a good thing. But we got to connect with our kids.
And Steve is right with, you can still do awesome in the campus ministry and crank it, as we say, and do great and be fruitful and try to save the world and convert as many as possible. But make the campus a part of your family. Right. And I know you guys know this, but it really does work. Like Steve didn't mention this, but Arlie actually ended up coaching with him on one of the teams.
That's right.
And so we have a picture of the whole team, and Arlie and Steve were the coaches. Like, do little things like that. Awesome. If you're teaching a little league baseball or whatever, you got a really athletic brother, have him coach that season with you. The parents loved him. They were awesome. They felt like, wow, the other parents were like, wow, we got a college person as our kids coach. You know what I'm saying, Coach? They were really impressed. Awesome. And, KU kid teaching our kids. Right. And so we just tried to be super creative and have people in our homes a lot. We took the kids on campus with us. I bought a double stroller, and I just trained and taught them just how to be around people. We just didn't let it stop us, and didn't think of it as annoying or them in the way, and so that we could keep connecting with them and making them a part of our lives. And our kids loved it.
Yeah,
they just loved it and loved the people and loved the college students. They have all of their favorites, and and as they grew, we did. I did special time individually with them. We just did lots of creative things. Summer. Steve took Summer on dates, and that's kind of an indirect way for her to learn how to be taught by a man. And it's subtle, but it's true. And so she has high expectations for brothers one day, which is what you want her to have, because when she sees guys in the world, they'll still struggle when they get to junior high and high school, but they'll have such a high standard that it'll turn them off in the end when guys in the world are not like you guys. And the same thing with Steve. Steve is giving Soren money to take me on the date. I do the driving, but he does the door opening and things like that, just so we can go have special time. Since we moved to New Jersey is Diner Nation. And so for a while, Soren and I, who was 14 at the time, we just hit up all the different diners every Saturday morning and tried them out and test them. And we would pretend like it's like a Food Network thing, hey, how do you rate it? What do you think? And so you have to get creative as they get older. And he's hitting a stage where he would rather go online on Xbox with his friends at 9 o'clock in the morning than going to the diner with me. So now I'm in the stage of trying to figure out a new special time and come from a different angle. So Mary Lou is helping me with that as a mom to a teenage boy, how to keep my special times with him. But that's still important, and we're still going to do it. I've just got to tweak it now for a high schooler. So,
and I'll just give you a quick schedule of how we did ministry. I'm only going to share this not to brag, but just so you can see that it can work, okay? The way we ran our schedule the last 8 years in LA before we came here, we would basically we'd go on campus we also led a region, but campus was part of it. But we would go.
Called a sector there.
Yeah, it's called a sector there. But we'd go on campus just a couple days a week. We had campus ministers, so we didn't have to do it ourselves. But we would still go on campus because I believe the campus needs to be focused on no matter what position you have in the church. And so we would not take any, once our kids came home from school, we wouldn't take any appointments until we put them to bed. So we'd be with them from 3 o'clock till 8:30, 9, depending on their bedtime. Once we put them in bed, we'd take maybe one more appointment at night. And it would be just a brief appointment, because then we would try to go to bed around the same time so that we could stay connected. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that campus ministry went from roughly 40 to 130 doing it that way. Okay, in Long Beach, went from 40 to 130 college students. So I only tell you that to say it works. Some people say, oh, that's not going to work. No, God blesses it. Yeah. When you put your marriage and your family first, God's like, well, that's what I want you to do. Of course I'm going to bless that. Yeah. Make sense? Yeah. So I just want you to know, I'm saying this just for the sake of helping you to know that this does work. Also, I just want to encourage you, you make sure you're taking annual family vacations. Have special times. We had a Saturday morning breakfast all the time. You got to find special things you can do for your family to stay connected. When you're meeting the core emotional needs of your kids, you can accept your kids' feelings even if you don't always understand them. You understand? You got to communicate to your kids. You can be sad. You got to tell your kids, look, you can be sad and you can be angry in our home, and we will still love you. You got to teach them to control their emotions. But I would encourage you, don't shut them down. Let them express the things that they're sharing, but then you got to teach them how to communicate. But don't shut them down. I know some people have said, just send your kids to the room when they do that. Maybe there's a case for that. But I know one of the things John Lewis says is you miss an opportunity to connect with them. You miss an opportunity to connect with them. And so sometimes when you're trying to connect, you got to hold their hand. And would you like to talk about this more? Or, you seem a little emotional. Hold their hand and try to talk to them. And just try to draw them out and try to help them. Don't go into behavior modification until you've listened. If you don't take the time to listen, hey, what's going on? You seem like something's wrong. You seem like you're upset. You seem angry. What happened? Did you have a bad day at school? If they get mad at you and you go to your room, you just missed a huge opportunity to maybe connect with them, to draw them out to see what's really going on. And there is a place where, sometimes it's like they're really out of control. You're like, you know what? Why don't you go to your room and cool down, and then let's talk after a certain period of time. Does that make sense? Yeah. But don't go into behavior modification until you listen. Make sense? Yeah. So ask open-ended questions versus lecturing. Make them feel like they can talk and solve issues. Make them feel like a big shot when they figure things out, right? Then they'll love to talk to you. Then they'll want to talk to you because they feel awesome. When they talk to mom and dad, they make me feel awesome because I get a chance to really speak. Does that make sense? Yeah. Anyways, next thing, number 4, and we're going to go through this quickly. Connect with your village. Connect with your village. We came very close to calling all of our small groups village groups because we reformed our church into kids of similar age. All of our small groups are broken into kids of similar age because we wanted to raise our kids together. It takes a village to raise a child. So we took all the kids 7th through 12th grade and we put them all the 7th through 12th grade small groups, and then all of our other small groups are 0 through 6th grade, and we broke down the church in that way so that we could have similar age people, similar age kids in these groups so that you could raise the child together. And you got to connect with your village. It takes a village to raise a child. Again, Larry and Mary, and it takes people in your life. Larry and Mary Lou, 3 hours a week. We sit down and they go through, okay, so tell us about how things are going through kids. Well, my son did this. Okay, then what did you do when he did that? Well, I did this. Then what did he do? He did this. Then what did you do? I did this. What did you do? 3 hours in detail, almost every week. And it has helped me think through, what should I do now? What should I say next? Because rather than, because I can just quickly react. But we have to act with a plan, not react.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Can I say something
Yeah,
real
go
quick
ahead.
on that?
Go ahead.
You guys, if you've got to have someone in your church with being in the ministry and with kids, you've got to have someone in your church that could be devoted to you. Mm-hmm. And even if it's not the person that's one-on-one discipling you, and there's a really good, solid married couple that's awesome with raising kids and has great biblical ideals in raising kids and really love the Lord, ask if they'll get with you every week. We really do this not every week something is going wrong in the home, but when it is, we do go through it in detail. And we have a 17, a 15. We've been Christians for 25 years, and we still get this, and this really helps us. So I can't say it enough for those of you who are young. When we can't get together, Mary Lou and I talk through things, and the thing that I would really encourage you to be is to be honest. The older people in the church are totally there for us, the elders' wives, just more mature couples, but you've got to be honest. I've had to be honest with terrible things I've said, mean things I've said, things I've been embarrassed about, because once I cool off and then I have to repeat it to a sage sister, I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah.
One time Summer she won't mind me sharing this little part because it was my bad. She was bothered. She was running late for the bus and on her way out the door, and she was kind of blaming me that she was late. And on the way out the door, I said something like, which I thought wasn't that bad, but I said something like, as she's walking down the steps of the bus, don't blame me, it's not my fault you're running late, bye, and I closed the door. And I didn't say it mean or anything, but just those are my last words as she walks out the door. Don't blame me that you're late, it was your fault, And I talked to Mary Lou a little later that morning, and I got done telling her the story, and there was this pause, and I was like, oh, that...
The dramatic pause while she forms her thought.
And Mary Lou, she's so awesome. I wish all of you guys could meet her. She said, that's the last thing you said to her? Yes. And we just talked through that. And the honesty is what helped me. And we just went through with, she did say, I don't really think that would be the last thing Jesus would say on his teenager's way out. And she was right. And she said, that's not being a Jesus-like mom. I was convicted. I was so convicted. And she said, the next time, because Summer was kind of wrongly accusing me of herself running late. You guys know teenagers. But here's what she said, which I thought was so awesome. Is she said, instead, why not, just have said something like, oh, I'm sorry I couldn't have helped you more. I'm sorry I couldn't have helped you make it out the door better. And you know what I realized? In my pride, I want to be like, sorry, I didn't help you more. But then you know what the way she was teaching me? The way of who she was teaching me to go is Jesus. I'm sorry I'm sorry I didn't help you more. And so anyway, the honest openness is what has helped us also a lot, even though it's been incredibly embarrassing and humbling.
Okay, I'm about to say some things that may be controversial, right?
Say it.
When we were leading the church in Lawrence, Kansas, Doug's in the back. He can tell you. He's talking now, but anyways, Doug kept asking, "Hey, you want to come move to Houston? Come move to Houston." I'm like I'm not ready to leave Lawrence yet. I feel like the church was going good. I didn't want anything to slow down. But I told him, I said, "Look, I'm not leaving until you get an elder. When you get an elder, then I'll leave. Then I'll be willing to leave if it's God's will." And because I wanted someone around I wanted to be amongst someone who could help me with my kids. And so I was willing to leave the church in Lawrence, Kansas, and I think we left it in great hands because, of course, Chris took over. So, or it wasn't actually a year later after you took it over, right? But it was so helpful for us to be around someone like that. And then even 2 years ago, we moved from LA. LA was going great. The ministry was going great. Everything was going great. But we kept having this sinking feeling like we're blowing it with our kids. And I'm not saying LA couldn't have helped us. I think LA completely could have helped us. But I think we were so entrenched in our way of doing things that we said we got to hit the restart button. And so we made the move to New Jersey thinking we'll be with Larry and Mary Lou Craig so that they can help us. And I'm just saying, I had to ask myself, because at that time we had 650 college students and we were leading our ministry of about 400 on Sunday, besides, and the campus students were in addition to that. So it was almost 1,000 people. And I thought, do I care more about position or do I care more about my family? And I had to really count the cost and go, my family matters more. And so I said, I don't care about the position. I care about my kids. Months later, after moving to New Jersey, our daughter was baptized. Wow. I go, man, God just works like that, So don't let selfish ambition keep you from making sure your kids get what they need. Amen? And then I'll say this one quickly, and it's connect with your responsibility. Another thing is, Ephesians 6:4 again, train yourself. You got to train your kids, right? But Romans 12:18 says, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Sometimes we focus on our kids. Our kids are this, our kids are that, our kids are this, and our kids they're strong-willed, they're this, they're that, they're that. And what you're not doing is you're not looking at you.
Right.
Because when we first got there, I was telling Larry, my kids this, my kids this, my kids this, and Larry looked at me and goes, look, the problem is you.
Wow.
When you change, your kids will change. And I was like, I've never looked at it that way.
Wow.
I've never looked at it that way. So before you point to our kids and say our kids are this, our kids are this, look at yourself and make sure that you're not doing things exasperating kids or hurting them in ways that, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So guys, that's basically all we have time for. We have a little bit more material, but I want to encourage you. God has given you everything you need.
Yeah.
His divine power has given everything you need so that you can raise kids, kingdom kids, so that we're not just on our campus going, man, I want to go make disciples of every nation, but you're saying, I want to make disciples of every nation and of every generation. Amen? Amen. So, class.